So we can't find clues to what happened to the Edmund Fitzgerald if you don't dig, Darrell, and you keep digging and keep finding new clues, which is why we're meeting yet again here late January. What do you got?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me once again.
Of course.
I think we're a pretty good team the way we're working all this thing out. And,
you're a global star.
Well, I'm a legend in my own time.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, let's start this off. I would like to, if we could, another edition of History Mystery Man, and I'd like to call it another piece of the puzzle. And in the words of the late, great Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone episodes,
Love those episodes.
Submitted for your approval. Here we go.
I love those Twilight Zone episodes, by the way.
Let me tell you.
Those old black and whites, they were so ahead of their time.
Okay, well, anyway, the first part of what I'm going to say, some people are going to go, what's he talking about that for? It has nothing to do with the Fitzgerald. Well, it is, and it does, and it will about 5 minutes into this presentation. So I'm hoping we can keep that section of it together. This is going to explain a lot, and people are going to go home, never thought of that,
I can't tell you how many times I have scratched my head and went, never thought of that, when you bring something new to the table like you always do. So
here we
go right ahead.
Picture, if you will, 1970. I was in the United States Air Force. Stationed at Dauphin Island Air Force Station. That's an island off of the coast of Mobile, about 35 miles out there.
Out in the Gulf.
Yeah.
The Gulf of America.
Yeah. Let's hope that holds. It's nice and warm. I mean, for the previous 18 months, I was freezing my dingleberries off on the dew line. If you know what the dew line is, it's in case the Russians came over the pole. We had a series. Yeah.
It's not related to dingleberries?
Okay. Doesn't that sound like a good rock band for, punk rock band? I don't know.
Traveling Wilburys and the dingleberries. So a dew line. What is a dew line?
It's an early warning system in case the Russians were coming over the pole. See, you had the dew line, and then that's right up in the Arctic. Then you had the mid-Canada line, right? Because the radars at those times were only good for 200 miles. And then you had the pine tree line, which is right on the edge of the United States. I could have thrown a snowball and hit the New Brunswick border, okay? And I can tell you that you'd have 30 below zero normally in the wintertime. And the wind would come down from Nova Scotia. I mean, it was colder than a witch's left mammary gland, And so you know the way of looking at it, So to be stationed down on a tropical island, now this was awesome. Anyway, I'm working third shift and getting ready to get off work. So I got 1 hour to go. I'm reading the paper. A few Generation Zers out there, years ago was a thing called a newspaper,
What's that?
Oh, man. I got a break for 1 second. I just told my wife this. She had some cereal that's about a year and a half old and all sealed up and stuff. So I touched, is it Best Buy or, Expire, whatever. It says 40% of all millennials, that's why cereal sales are down. 40% of all millennials will not eat cereal because they don't have to clean up the mess. You wash the bowl out in the sink and you put it to dry. How hard is this?
Oh, they don't want to clean up the cereal bowl.
Yeah, you eat your cereal, get your milk, but they don't want to bother cleaning the bowl.
I hope they never get into a big pot roast dinner. The cleanup will be days.
What my dad would have done to me if I said that, he'd have said, bend over, and he'd have kicked me square in the butt. No, yes, sir, I'll wash that bowl up. Anyway, as a sidebar, you cut that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I'm leaving it.
So anyway, I'm reading this newspaper, and of course, blah 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 blah. I get to the end of the newspaper, and I'm looking through the dealerships, and something jumps right out at me. I look at it. This can't be right. It's 1970. It says a 1968 Corvette, $2,800. And I go, there's got to be something wrong with this car, man. I know they're a heck of a lot more than that. So lucky for me, the guy comes in early. Boom, I get in the car and I go down to that dealership, still in uniform. I go and I'm all over this Corvette, man. I'm looking high and low, and here comes the car salesman, Oh, little old lady drove the son's on, this kind of crap, I said, let me take her for a spin. He gives me the keys. Off I go. So I take her up, 20, 30, 40, 50. At 60 miles an hour, that car is just shaking like this. That whole car is just shaking. What the heck? I pull off. Is there something caught up under here? Is there something wrong? Those are brand new tires. Kills this sale. I take it back to the guy. I says, this ain't going to work. It shakes like crazy. He said, what do you mean? We just took it in. He took it in last night, the guy who sold it. And so anyway, he gets in the car. We take it up on I-10, 60 minutes. About a mile away from the dealership, there's this gas station. He's pulling there. A buddy of mine owns it. He went in and talked to him. He's pulling the thing there. We're going to true the tire. Have you ever heard about truing a tire? What it is, when you buy tires, they high-speed balance them. They spins off and they put the little lead weight on there, to balance it. And what it is, it goes slowly around, and there's a revolving razor blade. And if there's a high spot in that tire, it cuts it down. And after about, I don't know, half a dozen or a dozen revolutions here, slowly, that tire's perfectly round. That's how it was out of whack. He put that thing back on. Here we go out on I-10, 60 miles an hour. Smooth as silk. 70, smooth. 80, smooth. 100 miles an hour, smooth as silk. I said, sold, buddy. I am sold.
Too bad you still didn't have that Corvette if you bought it.
If I bend over, you kick me one, will you? Anyway, I buy the car. Love the car. It's the most fascinating car I ever owned in my life. So anyway, what we're going to do right now is set that whole story I just told you off to the side, because it's going to come back here in a little bit, all right? Now, if you will, let's fast forward to November 9th, 1975, okay? The Fitzgerald's loading, Burlington Northern Dock, Superior, Wisconsin. Across the slip from him is Dudley Parkett in the Wilford Sykes, and he's watching the whole proceedings go on and on and on. Anyway, they load up, and they're after a delay, which we will talk about some other time. They left, and about that same time, the Anderson leaves Two Harbors. But because the Fitzgerald was faster, 17, 16, 17 mile an hour, and the Anderson was like 12 and a half, 13 miles an hour. After I don't know how many hours, the Fitzgerald caught up with the Anderson and took the lead. Now you got the Fitzgerald in the lead, the Anderson second, the Wilford Sykes is third, and you got the Roger Blow bringing up the stern. But Captain Paquette, I can't ever get
you
that.
You did it. Paquette. That's it.
He was a fantastic...
It only took you 18 episodes.
I know. I'm a slow learner. I passed one buoy too many, I think. Oh, man. So anyway, he's plotting this weather. He said, and in his own testimony, he said every captain should be made to plot the weather for every trip. And he said it was obvious that McSorley didn't do it and Captain Cooper didn't do it, because he plotted it out. And the Weather Service says this storm system's going south of their location. Captain Paquette said, we're going to get hit with a blockbuster, buddy. So he lays in behind Isle Royale and drops the hook. He's at anchor.
He studied the weather more than some of these other captains. He was an aficionado of weather forecasting.
For the fleet.
He went deeper into the subject of weather, Paquette did.
Yes, he went and went to weather school, graduated from a definite weather prognosticator, not one of these bimbos you see on TV reading a teleprompter,
A green screen. So Paquette of the Sykes had a better handle on weather forecasting than many of the captains, the Great Lakes captains, did back then, yes?
Exactly. No question about it. I wouldn't say he was the only one, but in this particular instance, he was.
He called the storm, the others didn't.
That is correct. Now, the most interesting part of this, and I know this is in a couple other videos, and this is for people that have not seen them all, so I will reiterate a couple of things to tie this all in. At anchor, he's listening to Captain McSorley and the Fitz talk to Captain Cooper on the Anderson. He says, I've had to check back from 99 RPM to 55 RPM. I have never in my life seen this ship move the way it's moving right now. And Captain Paquette thought, it's getting bad, but it ain't hit yet. Why would he say something like this? Because it ain't that bad yet. And Captain Cooper says, I've checked back maybe from 95 to 85, just a little bit, okay? So anyway, they're going across the lake, and that is when they decide to take the northern route, because they want to get in the lee of the Canadian shoreline, so it won't be so bad.
Which is different than the normal route, which is to the south.
Right. Rounding the Keweenaw Peninsula, Copper Harbor, and south.
The normal shipping lane.
That is the normal Lake Carriage Association.
It's faster.
It takes less time to get there, for sure. Keeping that in mind now, we're making the turn now by Metropolitan Island coming down, okay? Her last dry dock was on April 20th in 1974 in Lorain, Ohio. In February of 1975 was the annual inspection for certification. The spar deck inspection was April 9th of 1970. The spar deck is the main drag, the main deck where all your stuff's on deck there. And as I said in another video, in September of 1975, the big shots from Columbia, Richard Phelps and Sid Spinner and Dick Cratchit and the rest of these guys, I don't know if they had a report over it or what, but they obviously ballasted the bow down to get the prop and the rudder up out of the water. For some reason, they wanted to check it. And sure enough, as I said in another video, they saw what appeared to be about a 6 to 7 inch crack. Although they did dye testing, they did this, they couldn't really make a definite.
You're talking the prop blade.
The prop blade. There's a 4-bladed propeller.
Yeah.
I can show you a picture of it here. They say, go run a trip or two. Now, this goes on 6 weeks before the boat sinks, okay? Go run a trip or two up north. So it's 5.5 days up and back. So another trip, 5, 10. So now we're looking about, close to third week of September here, maybe a little later. And they come back, they ballast the boat down, get the prop out of the water, and that crack had gotten bigger. So we got to change this. There's no question about it. So I don't know how they do this, and folks out there in TV land, if you were involved in this, please leave an email or comment to Don, and he'll get back with you. Did they use 2 cranes? Did they use a crane to get the blade off the shaft, and another crane to get the extra blade off the deck? Because what sense would it make to lift this off the shaft and set it on the ground over here, and then reach this one and put it on here, and then have to go back there and do that? It would make sense to me to do it all in one fell swoop, right?
With 2 cranes?
With 2 cranes, that is correct. So, we have now put it on. I don't know how you would balance a prop that freaking big. I mean, there's ways to do it, obviously, when they're building the ship. But this ain't dry dock. This is just in the water with the thing up like this. So, I'm going to guess, and this is pure supplication on my part, but doggone it, if he says in the middle of Lake Superior, I've never seen this ship act like this before. The wiggle action, okay? Remember the Corvette, 60 mile an hour?
Yeah.
Now the Fitzgerald's doing this here. 2 things before I get into another.
Shaking like the tires are off balance.
The prop was off balance. As a marine surveyor, I've done many ships, boats, fishing boats in particular. I've sent many a prop to Minderman Marine in Port Clinton, Ohio, and they would rebalance or recondition a prop because it would just, you'll ruin your engine, you'll ruin the shaft. If you, Captain Paquette said, vibration means you got a serious problem somewhere. You shouldn't have this vibration. Notice at no times do my fingers leave my hands.
Well, this is quite a demonstration. A coat
In
hanger.
my hands, I hold an ordinary
some
coat hanger,
snips.
ladies and gentlemen. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make the Edmund Fitzgerald right here. All right, this is it. Yeah, there goes the Fitz. I'm sorry. Okay, now we all know if you bend this enough times, it's going to break. We've all done that before. We've all hung up shirts and coats. Anyway, so here's the bow of the Fitz, and here's the stern of the Fitz. It's doing this all the way across Lake Superior. You know, if you keep doing that, that gets hot until it finally breaks, and you can see that. But if you go that way all the way across Lake Superior, you are weakening the structural integrity of that metal. There's no question about it. That's why he had to check back, just like the Corvette. I couldn't go over 60 mile an hour because it'd shake it to death. That's why he throttled back. Okay? So after how much of this could you do? And could that have, that excessive vibration caused, remember we talked about the spare prop blade that they put back on? If those bolts, those original bolts from 17 years are probably pretty rusted, they had to probably cut them off to get, and then they put new bolts on, I would hope, of this, because that spare, the cracked prop blade is going back to Superior, Fraser Shipyard to get work done. Could that somehow help shake that propeller blade loose? And as we alluded to, and you've got pictures of it, you can always inject there. There's a hatch combing right next to it where the ladder goes down into the cargo hold. Bam! It could have came and knocked that right off. Now this thing's this wide. You know, your vents are on that way. You can see he's got he's got roughly between 12 and 14,000 gallon a minute pumps going. 2 of them. There's one report says 6,000, the other says 7,000 per pump. There should not have been that kind of a list. There should not have been. This is right after. In fact, let me get you the time here. It was at 1530 to 1535, so that's 330 to 335. The Fitz reports its list and missing bent covers to the Anderson. At 1610 to 1615, he calls the Anderson and says, both my radars are out. Little bitch, the witch of November, man, is, you know what I'm saying? It's compounded. The things are going from bad to worse real quick. So anyway, when you look at time factors there, he was already past Caribou Shoal. He still had radars at that point. But come to find out later, that doggone shoal ran another 1.5 miles out, so he might have thought he was in good water, but he's still, and you got 25-foot seas, you know, here's the boat riding the waves, like this, you know, and here's, boom, yeah, it's real possible. And you wouldn't even know you hit because it pounded so bad. Now here we go, this is going to be very important. He said he had to check back because the Anderson was 17 miles behind him.